Hello and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric, joined once again by Karen, bringing you some
Hello.
more General Hospital, November 24th to December 7th, 1981. Tommy will roll the credits and we'll chat about it. All right, so this is post-wedding still, as everything will be. But Luke and Laura are all happy and all the time and stuff. So Luke and Laura, people are trying to get in their house, or the house that they're staying at in Beacher's Corners, right? And Tiffany and Robert are in like disguise.
Yeah, they came as locals, so they dressed in like overalls and
Is
stuff.
that what they were doing?
I
I
don't know.
thought
They were
maybe they were in
being
disguise because, they're famous
I think
for
they were just
saving the
being
world.
silly, to be honest with you. They do seem
I
to do
honestly
a lot of silly things.
I didn't know it was them at first. I'm like, why is he letting them in? And I'm like, oh, it's them. Some lady brings a turkey to
Yeah, one of
give
the
them.
neighbors, yeah.
Um, Robert ends up he says he can give his penthouse to Luke and Laura, but I don't think they take him up on it.
No, what he wanted to do was he had 3 months rent paid up on the penthouse and he wanted to gift it to them so they could stay there. Robert's
Right.
plan was to live on the boat with Tiffany and they were going to
Which he
start.
bought, right? He bought the Titan.
No,
No?
the Titan is a
I mean,
gift from a mysterious benefactor, remember?
I thought he mentioned that he bought it. So I was
No,
confused.
no. The boat is Luke and Laura's. It was a gift from the city.
Hmm,
It was a curse handed to them by
interesting.
Helena.
Right. I swear, maybe I just misheard. Tiffany wants to make it like a cabaret type thing. Um, some chicken bites Robert
That was so
while they're
funny.
there.
So when Robert and Tiffany get there, Luke and Laura are basically they've gone native. They're wearing the little like she's wearing overalls with no shirt. Laura was in her pajamas when they showed up, so she had to leave and get dressed. And instead of just hanging out with them, they're like, "We have all the chores to do, so you're now going to have to do all the chores with us." And Tiffany, who was
Hmm.
raised, I think, in the Midwest, she said she knows everything about taking care of the animals. And Luke makes a reference to the last time where Laura said, slap the hogs instead of slop the hogs. So they're all running
Mm.
out chores. So when they're in the barn, Robert wants to tell them about his and Tiffany's idea to turn the boat into a cabaret. And I think why you think they bought the boat is because they went and signed papers to take possession of it. So I think when you saw that,
Okay.
you may have thought that they were purchasing the boat, but they were just signing the paperwork because Luke wasn't there. It was the boat
Right.
arriving at the docks. They were signing the
Gotcha,
dock
gotcha.
papers.
I
So
know I was confused. I'm like, he didn't buy it from Luke, did he? Like, I was confused
he
because I knew it
what
was a
with
gift and
his
all that stuff.
diamond mine money? He has no money.
Right, that's true.
So while he's explaining to them about the cabaret and the idea of the boat, he gets bit by a chicken. And I wanted to know, was he really bitten by a chicken? Is this something I need to remember if I meet Tristan Rogers again to ask him about?
Did you really get bitten?
Did you get bit like by a chicken?
Um, they talk about Helena and Scotty. Um, Luke was weirded out. Robert wants a building for a recreational something.
Oh, your notes are insane.
That's
Luke was freaked out because Helena kept comparing him to her husband and saying that he had the same energy and like need for power that her husband had. So like it freaked him out because she seemed a little too interested in him, which as we know in the future she is. Like so
right.
it creeped him out. The whole idea of being compared to somebody who tried to freeze the world freaked him out a little bit. And what was the other part you were saying? Like uh,
But they were kind of, if Robert wants a building for a recreational center. I could have put the wrong name. Is
oh
that
no no
Tiffany?
you're wrong, it's Rick.
It's Rick.
So
I know I
Rick
mix up my
Rick
names
and
all the time now.
it happens when you're tired. But Rick and Leslie are working at the clinic, and a kid gets hit by a car, Now he's fine, like he's just a little banged up, but it comes out through the conversation that this is about rebuilding Charles Street. Remember, it's always about like Charles Street is a bad neighborhood. It's like
Right.
the docks. It's, eventually in the future, it's where Sonny will be running his business. It's a crap neighborhood and the kids don't have anywhere to play. And the little boy, I think his name was Teddy, he was like, oh, well, the only place we can play is the school playground. And who wants to be there? That sucks. So they
Which, by
play
the
in
way,
the
that
street.
that kid is in everything in the 80s and 90s.
Good for
I'm like,
him.
I tried to look him up.
He must have a great
Like
agent.
I know his face, and I'm like, and I was trying to look him up, but
Yeah, he
of
did
course
look
he's not
familiar.
listed.
But
Yeah,
because they talked to him, Rick decided that they needed to figure out a way to get. Basically, they're starting the storyline where they're going to build the community center because
right.
Rick eventually
Which
becomes
goes
very
on
involved. Yeah,
for
forever with the
years. Yeah,
community center. So
with the
as soon as
boxer that Amy likes.
yeah, Johnny, yeah,
Yeah,
like it's all
yeah,
of that is coming. So this was just there's not much to that storyline other than the two of them being cute
yeah. There's
and
not much.
deciding that they want to build a community center.
Lee and Scotty are talking. I guess we missed an episode around Thanksgiving. Luke was involved in some kind of prank that Ruby was in danger. Do you know about that story or you don't? Because we missed it.
Vaguely, it's on my VHS tape. It's
You got it and other people don't online. Ooh,
I know. I should probably figure a way to get that tape. It was like a compilation Love on the Run thing. But anyway,
right.
Scotty lured Ruby to a warehouse, and then I think he was just trying to scare them. Like he
And it
lured
was on
Ruby.
Thanksgiving, they said.
Yeah, he lured Ruby to a warehouse. He lured Luke there too, and I think it was just kind of like a "you're not safe" situation because Scotty's
Yeah.
messing with people. His conversation with Lee, he is lying the entire
Oh,
time
for
he's talking
sure.
to Lee.
And
He
he's doing a
gets.
good job lying because sometimes he like you can tell he's lying, but
Are you
he's actually
kidding?
like
He has a tone
convincing
when he
himself.
lies. Oh, please, he's lying. Like his tone of voice
Oh, I
gets
know he's
really kind of
lying.
he gets kind of soft and a little higher pitched than he normally talks when he's lying. It's almost like a forced earnestness.
Yeah,
I,
right.
and I was like, he's lying. Yeah, I was like, come on, Lee, he's your kid. You don't know he's lying to you. He's so lying.
Right. But Scooty,
Scooty.
Scooty. Scotty denies that he was involved in it, of course. Um, then we see Scotty on the Titan next. What's he doing on there, that little bugger?
Sabotage.
Um, Laura doesn't want to risk the money for the club because I guess they only have a certain amount of money
They have fifty
that
thousand
they have to,
dollars.
but they have to make it last. They don't have
And they don't have
jobs right
jobs.
now.
And she wants a little regular job. She's very much like the Laura of today. It's really cute how much like they laid the groundwork for her in the 80s and she's
Yeah,
that same person because she always wanted
yeah.
a house, she wanted stability, she wanted a job, and then she married Luke who wanted none of those things.
And she does not want that vote that was given to
She
them by the
hates the boat. She
Cassadines.
hates the boat. She thinks
She
the
hates
boat is creepy, it's damp, it has bad Cassadine juju. She hates that boat.
Robert wants Tiffany to sell her necklace, her diamond necklace,
Hmm.
to, I guess, invest in the boat, or like,
Yep.
I'm guessing. And they're like, oh, you can be a hostess, and they're giving her all this stuff, and she's like, ooh, that sounds great. And Laura's like, no, I don't want it. I don't want parts, any parts of it. She's basically creeped out being there and all that because of the Cassadines were there, and they were given that, and all
Well,
that
it's
jazz.
funny because Luke talks about the cabaret and he does mention that he killed Disco in town.
Why don't they just, why don't they just sell it? I wonder.
Um, I think they looked into selling it before and they had to wait for the right buyer. Because remember, they went and talked to the real estate agent and he said they weren't going to get the price they wanted for it because it's worth about $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you
Which is
need to,
insane
right. So he said, you need to wait for
for
the
a
right
boat.
buyer. So while they're waiting for the right buyer, it costs $5,000, I think, a month or something like
Right.
that to keep it at the docks. So the rental fee at the docks is going to kill them. It's just going to destroy them if they don't do something. So that's why they came up with the nightclub idea.
And Luke sees Scotty on the boat and he says he's there to apologize and he wants what's best for everyone.
Lies.
offers to give the papers to them, and he won't contest the divorce, all of this stuff.
Hmm.
So he's plotting against them.
Love it.
And I put the gang, I call them the gang, Luke,
Yeah,
Laura,
me too. In my
Tiffany, and
head, I'm
Robert.
always like the gang.
I put the gang discuss what to do for the club, they're gonna, or a club boat.
Hmm.
They want to do like a 20s to 40s theme type stuff, which we see in the future that they do.
Luke killed Disco in
Um,
town. He killed it dead.
yeah. Luke and Laura are in bed. I guess they're living on the boat temporarily
They
because
are
they don't
living on
have
the
a
boat,
place.
yes, and she hates it because it's cold.
And Tiffany and Robert come because they're always with them at this point,
We
not
do
in
have a lot of
1983.
cute scenes, like them in bed. They're like talking about how cold they are, and she's like, "Well, you got to cuddle in here," and he's like, "My legs are so cold," and then she's screaming. So we're having like a lot of really
Yeah,
cute
cutesy coupley
newlywed
things.
moments. I'm really enjoying it because like this when I tell you Luke's my favorite, this is why. Like you're seeing a lot of
Yeah.
the reason why he's my favorite in these scenes.
And Scotty's still lurking around the boat.
Yep. He was messing with a
Um,
porthole at one point, and then I think he was messing with a railing. Like he's damaging
yeah.
stuff on the boat
Laura and Tiffany are getting loaded on brandy.
because they found it while they were
Um,
skiing.
Luke and Robert were fixing the heat, I guess, while they were doing that.
They were fixing the boiler. The boiler was broken.
Yeah. Um, Luke chases Tiffany and Robert out. Scotty is still around messing with the boat. Laura almost falls off the boat because she leans on the little thing and almost falls. And
Well,
I guess she probably would have just fell. I don't know if they're on a dock. I guess they're on a dock, right?
if she's lucky, she'd fall in the water. If she's unlucky, she'd hit the dock.
She'd hit the dock. Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't meant to do that. It was meant to scare you because like it fell forward so she didn't fall in the water. But the reason they were on
But
the
they
deck.
caught her. She caught herself. Like she would have fallen if
I know.
she didn't catch herself.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't think it was done to hurt anyone. I think it was done to scare them. And the only reason they were standing there was because he was trying to talk her into going back to bed instead of going to her mother and father's engagement party.
Right. Um, Dan and Ruby are on. Ruby saying that she has to tell Bobby something.
Hmm.
Ruby talks to Luke about Noah's uncle. Someone is investigating Bobby, and Luke is not happy about it. The gang continue drinking on the boat and getting loaded. Bobby comes along because Bobby and Ruby, I guess, haven't seen the boat yet. So Luke and Laura want to show, or Luke wants to show them around. Laura could care less, probably. Um, where are Tiffany and Laura talking about going? Did you hear? Because I didn't. I
Okay,
missed it.
so a lot of this is disjointed because you said you're skipping around on storylines because a lot of this is happening in and around the engagement party because
Yeah, I'm
people.
not including the engagement party right now.
I know, but that's why people are meeting. So it's
Right,
confusing to me because like you have a whole bunch of people who are supposed to be going to the party who aren't, and you have other characters who are at the party and coming in and out. So Ruby was meeting with Dan because they were going to the engagement party where they were going to run into Bobby, hopefully
right.
because Bobby was working late, and that's where Ruby tells Luke about what's going on, which is that Noah Drake's father is
I think it's his
investigating.
father.
Yeah, the
I
senator.
think.
He's
Yeah,
investigating Bobby's past because he doesn't think Bobby's good enough for Noah, and they're all afraid
right.
that Bobby being a hooker previously is going to come up and ruin her relationship with
Which I
Noah.
feel like that's in 1983 too. The same stuff's happening with the mayor thing for Luke. You
Yeah,
would
and
think everybody would know by now if this is what's coming up in 1981.
this is one of the things where like there were a couple really great quotes from Luke about telling Noah and
Mm,
sh- um which I'm never going to find now. Um yeah, doing it this way is not good for me. Like it's too confusing. But anyway, he says like basically if all right, hold on. They're like tell Noah before he finds out, right? And
right,
Luke is like if he's so great, he can take you all together, your past, your present, everything. And he says if he's worth having, he's worth telling the truth too. So it's it's like a really good message as he's saying that, like, if Noah really loves you, he won't care.
Right.
Which, I mean, how can Noah really care? Because Noah's a hoe. Like, he was sleeping with everybody at the hospital
He
for
is.
free. She at least was getting paid. So, like, he's as big of a hoe as she, like, and she didn't have a choice.
Right.
She was escaping poverty. So, like,
He's a
she's better.
gigolo. A gigolo.
Yeah,
You're
like
allowed to be a gigolo in 1981,
he would love to, but like,
but you can't be
yeah,
a hoa.
right. So yeah, so they are basically building up Bobby and saying, listen, this is coming, this is bad, but you need to
Yeah.
you get ahead of it before it like bites you in the ass.
So where
So
did Tiffany and Laura want to go?
we wanted to go
Did
to
you catch that? New
New
York
York City.
for the
They
night,
wanted
right? And then
they wanted to go to meet with Tiffany's
shut up.
agent so that she could go into a bunch of commercials because
Mm,
Tiffany is very popular doing like on the commercial scene. As much as Robert keeps giving her crap for not being in movies and stuff and giving her a hard time about being washed up, which he's teasing her obviously. Um
right.
she wants to film a couple commercials because she makes mad cash doing commercials and she wanted Laura to come with her. Initially, they talked about it earlier before they started working on the boat. And Laura was a little hesitant because she said, Luke and I just got married. He's not going to want to be apart. Like, we literally just got married. And Tiffany's like, who cares? You can come with me. We'll go shopping. We'll have a great time and we'll come back. And now it's coming
Right.
up again. And Robert is endorsing it because Robert's right. If they're going to be tearing the boat apart, it would make more sense to let the girls go and stay overnight somewhere else so they're not there while they're ripping walls down and stuff. And
Yeah,
Luke
yeah.
Luke is reluctant because they did in fact just get married and it's like he wants to either
And
be
now
with
they're
her or go with
right.
her, but he's
And they're
like,
doing all this stuff.
yeah, and he's like, okay. Like he really
So,
doesn't put up much of a fight. He's like he doesn't want her to go, but then he realizes that it's smart to have her out of the way while they're doing construction.
and my last note in the storyline is Ruby tells Bobby, is there a Thelma around?
Selma,
Or is it Selma? Who's that?
she's a hooker.
Oh, she's a hooker.
There's a bunch of hookers that get mentioned.
Because she does get to tell Bobby that, they're looking into her past
I
and all that
I
stuff.
wrote everybody's names down somewhere.
I thought I heard Selma. I put Selma
No,
and I
there's
got
a there's a
confused.
couple because
And
Luke
she will tell
asks,
Noah about her past.
he mentions the like Ruby mentions somebody misses something, which I have in my notes somewhere. Um, and she says he goes, "Oh, she's still alive? I didn't even know she was still alive." So they're just people from the old neighborhood. Most likely, they are prostitutes that worked with them. Because remember, Ruby was a madam.
That's a Hoas, of course.
Yeah.
I want to see. They didn't show her being a madam, right? When she came to town, or was she a madam when she came to town?
I can't actually answer that. I don't think so. I think by the time we meet everybody, they had left these
They're
lives
freshly
and
out.
we're building their fresh start. Because from what I understand, someone can correct me. I believe all of that happened in Florida, but it's hard to say because the storyline was retconned in the early 2000s.
Mm,
So I'm not. I don't know. My mother would know because
yeah,
I remember watching the retcon and being like, absolutely, all of this is incorrect.
right.
I hate when
Just
they
like
do that.
Monica loving Jason since day one.
Oh, since the day they put that baby in my arms. Did she not hold that baby like a football and tell Alan she was going to clean it up and then she wasn't
Right.
dealing with this anymore? Oh my
So
God,
the other,
Monica.
the other major storyline was Heather finally. We finally got to see Diana's killer, which I didn't know. Did you know?
Yes.
Uh, you suck. I thought that was really cool. Joe was looking for Diana's killer still. Some lady saw a person in a picture. They asked a dude about the picture. He recognizes the lady from the bus.
So what's going on is remember they found out that someone was very upset and on the bus, right? Because
Right.
initially the prowler said that he escaped on the bus. This led Joe to check with the bus driver at the bus depot. The bus driver didn't know anything, so he started questioning people who regularly rode the number 9 bus. He runs into a Miss or Mrs. Yamato, who's the woman you see in that scene.
Mm.
Yamoto, something like that. And he only says her name once, and I'm really bad with names. But
Right.
She saw someone on the bus who was upset and crying. They check with another guy from the bus. He says the same thing, and he's showing a picture. We don't know what the picture looks like. So we're in the dark. We don't know what's going on. But
Right.
he's narrowing down who was on the bus, and he thinks he knows who it is now.
Yes. But he didn't though, right? Or he did from the pictures
He
on the bus, but they don't
he
show
doesn't
us.
know who the murderer is. He thinks he knows now. He's showing
Okay.
them the picture, and now we know in the future that the picture must have been of Alice.
So yeah. So meanwhile in prison, Heather has a visitor, Dr. Seymour Katz, her psychiatrist.
Seymour Cat.
I know, right?
That is so funny. His
I
parents
know.
are mean.
Seriously. Or the writer was just being funny.
There was
Um,
well, the character itself is very silly, very tongue in cheek. So I'm assuming the writers were
and
just
then I
having
have
fun.
Joe knows the killer, or he says
Yes,
he does.
it does.
Dr. Katz tries to help her remember
She
Heather.
keeps talking about shadows.
And did they show how Heather escaped, or should you just get out?
She didn't
Because she
escape.
does
They let
escape.
her out
Why'd they let her out?
because they needed her to be out so that they could scare Alice into doing what they wanted to do. That's
Um,
why you'll see Heather is
oh, is
in a
that what was
room.
happening?
Yep, Heather's in a
Yeah, I
room
saw
with
she
a
was in the
phone,
room.
and
Right.
she waits for the phone call. And when the phone rings a couple times, then she bolts out of the room. I don't think she was supposed to do that. I think she was supposed to stay there, but she wanted to know what happened.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's also more dramatic if she's there when it all goes down, to be honest.
So yeah, they say that. Well, I guess they say that she escapes. Ramsey calls Alice and fills her in on Heather escaping. Heather's pacing in a room. That's what I have.
Again,
Alice
Alice is at
finds.
the engagement party that we're talking
Yeah.
around.
Um, Alice finds Anne. She doesn't seem to care, but then she kind of does because she's like, "Well, I'm actually scared because
Anna's drunk at
she's
the
drunk."
floating
Yeah,
rib with Zach and earlier I think Claudia and Brian.
yeah. Joe goes to Susan. Alice thinks Heather is going to kill her, so she's panicked. Amy thinks Joe and Heather will be the next to marry, which I thought was funny. That was mentioned at the party that we will talk about. Um, Joe gets to Alice. Heather is in the other room. So I guess she was at Alice's, right?
So
Or her house.
Alice went from place to place. Alice went to from the engagement party to the floating rib, and then she went to a bar. She called Jeff
Right.
from the bar to warn Jeff that Heather was on the loose. Then she went home because I guess she couldn't figure out. I guess she had a bunch of beers for courage, and then she went home. So Heather went right to the house after the phone call that she didn't answer. She left the room and she
hmm
went straight to Alice's house and she took the spare key and unlocked the door. And I'm not sure how Joe got in. I don't know if Heather left the door open or if Heather let Joe in. I'm not really sure what happened at that point. And then when
Hmm.
Alice comes home, Joe is sitting in the house and he confronts her, and Heather is hiding in the other room.
Yeah, so what do we have? Joe tells Alice about Shelley Vernon, and apparently that was Heather impersonated her to escape the institution. It
She
was a nurse
impersonated a
that was
nurse, yeah, and she
right.
she
It was
stole her
a nurse.
clothes, she stole her car, and she went to Diana's
And
house.
I got it as like they were making it look like it was Shelley, like to Alice, right? That's what
No,
I got from it.
okay, but I don't think that was implicitly implied. I think they said initially they had thought it was Shelley until they
Oh,
realized that Heather had knocked her out and impersonated her. So they knew that Heather wasn't the one on the bus because Heather had Shelley's car
all right, all right.
and she was dressed as a nurse when she was there.
Yeah. Alice tells Joe she was trying to get Heather back in Forest Hills mental facility, which we already seen that.
Yeah, she's obsessed with the idea of
Right, because she's
safely
crazy.
locking Heather away,
Right.
which
Um,
not a bad idea considering the future and what Heather does eventually.
Heather busts in, and we find out Alice fought Diana for the gun, and it was an accident. Well, I guess
It was
what
an
was it
accident.
called? To protect. Oh yeah, I guess they fought, but they didn't show a flashback, which was disappointing.
It was disappointing, but you have to remember that Heather was played by a different actress then, so they may not have wanted to flashback,
They
and they
probably
may not
didn't.
have
Yeah.
filmed it because they may not have known how the storyline was going to end. Because initially they might have wanted to get rid of Heather, and then when they recast her, decided she was awesome and they wanted to keep her.
Right.
I'm not really sure. We'd have to look into that. But it's an
So she
interesting
did it
story.
to protect Heather. Yeah.
She said, I grabbed the gun to keep her from killing you and to keep you from becoming a murderer. Like she did all of this to stop Heather from getting her and from Diana getting her, and then Diana ended up getting killed.
And she blamed Heather. She said, "My own little girl made me a murderer." I was like, "Damn, girl, take responsibility. You did it.
Her
The fuck?"
her relationship with Heather is I agree with Heather sometimes when she says she doesn't think that Alice loves her. I think Alice loves her, but I think Alice loves her in a really messed up way because she
Yeah,
just
I
looks
agree.
at her like she's damaged and she's going to cause all these
Hmm.
problems. And even while all this is
Pretty much her
happening,
whole run.
yeah. And while this is happening and they're telling the story, it cuts back, like the information cuts back to what Katz was saying to her. And she remembered things weirdly. And Alice said, you were, well, Alice doesn't say that because she doesn't talk like that. But like Heather was basically in a fugue state. She had no idea what was happening. And when she was prevented from shooting the gun, when her mother yelled stop at her, she says you were in a trance and you weren't even moving. And then Diana went and got the gun. So Diana was going to kill Heather because
Right.
Heather was trying to kill her. And that's how Alice ended up grappling for the gun. And then Diana ended up getting shot. And even
Right.
while that was happening, Heather was still in a trance like state and still had no idea what was happening. Like she has blank spots. She really doesn't remember what happened.
Right.
But she does know that her mother
So she
blames her
probably,
for everything and
if
wanted her to go
she,
to the nut house.
if she did kill her, I wonder if she would have gotten off on like temporary
Temporary
insanity
insanity?
or.
Well, that's what she's I mean, that's like her bread and butter, isn't it? Her existence is
Yeah,
temporary
right.
insanity.
That's
Like
true. To
she
this day.
honestly only has like temporary bouts of sanity. I think it should be like reversed. I did like that all of this came about because of PJ. And we know PJ is Stephen Lars. And all of this was like Diana thought that if she told Jeff that it was his son, that they would live happily ever after. And Jeff turned around and told her to go pound sand and was basically going to take the kid and everybody could go to hell. So none of this worked out the way any of these women
Right.
wanted it to. And I just felt really bad for Alice. Although, come on, that was harsh. You made me a murderer. My own daughter made me a murderer. It was cool. It was cool.
So I felt like those were like the major storylines. And then the little stuff, I guess, is like building up to other things. We have Edward going off on Alan about Lila
Yep.
because she wants the checks to be countersigned by her if it's $10,000 and over. So
Well, she
Edward
has the
can't
right to
has
do
no
that.
control. Right.
She is controlling interest in the company. And that's what Alan
Yep.
says. And Alan's like, have you tried being nicer to your wife? And Edward says
Yeah.
something really funny about no, basically. And Alan says, for the first time in your life, you're gonna have to realize that your wife is important. I was like, Alan's crushing today.
Yeah. Alice and Susan talk about Alan and Monica, and she has an idea to meet up with Monica.
For lunch.
And yeah,
That goes well.
um, yeah, right. She says, I think Susan says something along the lines of like, "You're clinging to Alan. Why are you so bitter?"
And
And
she
Monica's
says
like,
she's clinging
"God."
to Alan. What a revolting thought. And what
Right.
does she keep calling her? She keeps calling her like she calls her darling little Susan, and she calls her something at one point that's really funny. Like
Mhm.
she's awesome. I
Yeah.
just love her.
I mentioned that she's a quarter main, and you got to play the game or whatever.
She's like, you're not even a real quartermain you married in, and she goes, I am now. Yeah.
Um,
Monica's epic.
and I forget, did Susan say? Oh no, Monica, I think, said the next move is his, right?
Uh-huh. She said,
Yeah.
she thanked Susan for lunch because she realized that it was gonna be on Alan's dime because Susan doesn't have any money. So she thanked her for lunch and she said, "Could you give Alan a message for me? The next move is yours." And then she just like dipped. And she was so pleased the entire time. Like she has a
She was.
smirk on her face the entire time, and I loved it. I just love her. I love her. I wish she was on right now. I hope you're doing
And
well,
then
Leslie.
Monica did see Alan later and thanked him for lunch.
Uh-huh. She shoved it right in his face. He started to panic immediately. He's like, "I told you to stay away from Susan." And she's like, "Oh, well, it wasn't me. She invited me out to lunch and we had a wonderful time." Like she was just like digging it in. I love it.
And Edward questions Nancy about Lila and he fires her. But he can't fire her, right? Wouldn't Lila have to?
I don't know. Yes, he can fire her.
Oh, he can.
This is gonna lead to a character who's on for a while. Um,
Uh,
you'll see him. He was in the last episode. No, he's in the next one. He's in the next one. So you'll get. I
okay.
think his name's Randall. But Edward actually gets a male secretary, which would have been
Um,
unusual for the '80s. But I love that
yeah,
guy.
right.
He's very particular. Yeah, he fires Nancy because Nancy is reporting to Lila everything that he's doing, and he's like, yeah, you work for me, and I'm going to teach you a very important lesson. You're fired. Make sure you call to hire your own replacement." Which is just cold.
I think that's all the Monica stuff that we had and Susan and Alan, yeah, in those episodes. So yeah.
Well, Susan,
So I guess everybody backburnered right
Susan
now.
crops up again because Joe goes to her when he's on his hunt for
Oh,
Alice.
right, right.
And
Which
then
I
we
did
get
miss.
to reiterate the part that they had a massive, which we missed, a massive blow up with Heather at the prison. So I don't know what happened in that conversation, but it sounds like everybody was screaming at everybody. I think that's probably what led to her getting the psychiatrist in. She may have had flashbacks while
Uh,
that was happening, but we don't have it. So
damn. Yeah.
sorry.
Somebody might have it on a VHS tape out there or a
If
beta tape.
if you do, upload it and let me watch
Send it to
it.
us in an
can,
email.
can you let me watch it?
So now we can talk about this partay. Um, mm,
So they're
right.
at the house,
Yeah.
right? And Rick is actually in the house showering while Leslie is down talking to Alice about preparations for the party. Now,
Right.
Leslie is nervous because she's a perfectionist and she's also neurotic. So we see her talking about what they're going to do for the party. And meanwhile, Rick is upstairs being a 1980s man because he's yelling down, "Where's the shampoo? Where's the conditioner?" And like
And this is
Leslie's
their
yelling,
engagement party, correct?
right. And Leslie's yelling upstairs, and she's like, "There are 3 different kinds of shampoo in that bathroom." You know? Like, so it seems like they're already falling into the married couple trope of her basically, hand-holding him, and he's a surgeon, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, while that's all going on, everything that's happening that you've talked about is going on. Basically, everybody in town, mostly everyone in town, is going to this engagement party.
Yeah. Either is going or doesn't want to go and or elsewhere.
Yeah, the fun part about this is the dinner at the Floating Rib because Anne Logan is getting
Fan.
more and more sauced as the conversation is going on. She is on a date, it looks like, with Zach, who's one
Yes.
of the interns. And I actually think
Intern.
he's funny, but he's kind of like a side character. He doesn't really have a plot line, but he's been on
Hmm.
multiple times. And Brian and Claudia. Now, Brian and Claudia seem to be sober, and Anne is bombed. I think they
Yeah,
say
she's bombed.
she
Well,
starts
remember,
laughing.
she started that like the last batch of episodes. She started like not caring and all that stuff.
Well, she's having
She's
issues.
definitely on her way out.
Yeah,
She has like no
she's
storyline.
having issues because for most of her life she did, and I relate to this so hard. She did exactly what everybody expected her to do, and yet she got nothing that she wanted. And her need to, like, she didn't want to have sex with anyone because she was trying to save herself for marriage, and she was really doing everything exactly the way society wanted her to, and it lost her both men she liked. So she's
Yeah.
now entered her slut era, and I'm proud of her. And she just decided the only problem is the alcoholism. It turns out that she's very susceptible to alcohol and she's been drinking an awful lot.
Mm,
And she's
yeah.
not, she's sauced at this dinner and everyone is trying to talk her into drinking coffee. And she is just like, no. At one point, she says, I will take an espresso and a cognac. So she's just over it. And she's actually hilarious. And
She
when
is.
Alice gets there, because Brian and Claudia eventually leave to go to the engagement party, and Anna
Right.
admits that she doesn't want to go to the engagement party because she's sick of hearing about love, marriage, and all that
Yeah.
nonsense.
She's over it.
So Zach stays with her. He's supposed to go to the engagement party too. He was invited, but he
Right.
stays with her probably because he thinks he's going to get lucky. I don't know. Or maybe he's just a good
Mhm.
guy. I don't know enough about him. And she just gets sloppier and sloppier until Alice shows up. And Alice is like, girl, you need to hide because Heather's on the loose
Heather's out.
and she hates you. And Anne's
Yeah.
like, I don't care. Get me another martini or another drink. I'm here and I don't care about her. I don't care about any of this, whatever. And Alice is like, are
Right.
you insane? She's insane and she's coming. And then she dibs. And Zach is like, well, I can't leave you alone. So
Yeah.
I should take you home. And
And
Anne,
she's living with Steve and Audrey still.
right. So Anne admits that she is in fact terrified of Heather.
Yeah.
And she uses it to manipulate Zach into taking her home. And
Yeah.
then she tries to get into Zach's pants. And Steve
Yes,
and
she
Audrey
does.
have the cutest
Yeah.
she's not our daughter, but we certainly are her parents moment at the house where Steve
Well,
is just
Steve, yeah,
yeah.
Steve sees her first, and then
Mhm.
Audrey,
Well, he makes Audrey go down and interrupt them. He's being a
yeah,
number one dad. It's so funny.
right.
And
He's
Audrey
like, because
tells
he knew
him,
he
mhm,
wouldn't leave.
and Audrey's like, she's a grown woman. What do you expect us to do? And he goes, he talks a little bit about her being a good person in a bad time. And I wrote in my notes, like, Steve does not approve of Anne's slut era. And
Yeah.
I don't blame Anne for this. Like, she's going through a lot. But, like, Steve just very paternally tries to get rid of Zach and scares the bejesus out of him because he's his boss.
Yeah.
And then Anne won't let Zach leave. She won't give him his coat. She's suckering him in to give more kisses. And then poor Audrey has to go down. And she is just mortified. And Steve's like, she's a good girl, but she's going down a bad path. And
Yep.
they're very cute. They're really adorable.
Yeah, they are. I like when they're on. I
Mm.
wish they would do more and actually have a storyline, but
They do
at this
sometimes, but they were
point,
like the main thing in the
yeah,
60s, and now they're kind of the calm down couple,
yeah, unfortunately.
like Mac and Felicia now.
And how cute. I was gonna text you about Mike. I'm like, he can't be any cuter, this kid. Yeah, like a nice
Anytime
little surprise for them.
anytime he's on screen, I can't like I'm not a big, children person. And anytime Mike's on, I'm like, this kid could not be any cuter. This is like the cutest kid I've
I
ever seen in
know.
my life. And he's just so genuinely sweet. And his
And
interactions
he
with
has,
Amy are so fun.
uh, he's like, well, I'm gonna be like your brother, and like has her pick him up from, I think he was at the restaurant, right?
He was at Kelly's, yeah.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you. I was like Dee Dee's. I'm thinking all kinds of things.
Nope, Bobby's now.
Bobby's. Um, yeah, and so she picks him up, whatever,
Oh, he calls and
and
he's like, it's an emergency and I need you to come get me. And she's like, right now?
yeah,
And he's
right
like,
now.
okay. Well, Leslie tricked her into thinking it was a suitor, and here it was Mike on the phone. Because Leslie has got that sense of humor.
Yeah. And then he ended up getting them like a mailbox with all their names on it, which was
Even
adorable.
the dog. But it was funny
Yeah.
because, like, it's the way he calls them. So, like, I think it was Doc Rick and Doc Mom Leslie,
Yeah,
and then Amy, and then Corky.
he went to AC Moore and
I
got all
know.
the stuff.
It was so cute that Luke and Laura were, when they got left the engagement party and went home, couldn't stop talking about how cute it was.
Yeah,
He's such a cute kid. He really is.
I know, right?
It was funny
Um,
though when they were saying about telling everybody about the engagement, and they forgot about Amy until the end, and then they were like, if you tell Amy, everyone will know. Like the last time.
yeah,
But it was funny how they forgot about poor Amy until the end. I mean,
And
she's
it was
only been.
nice to see Jessie out of work.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was her right away because I haven't seen her out of her uniform in like
I
months.
know, I wasn't sure either, and I was like, "Is that Jessie?" It sure is.
Also, I really like the way Luke was announcing people like it was a royal ball. That was funny because I think he called
Yeah.
Joe Sir Joe of Kelly. And
Mm,
Joe literally
yeah.
showed up at the party and he was looking for Alice and she wasn't there and he dipped like 3 seconds later. So like Joe just did a circuit and then bounced because all this crazy stuff's happening around this calm party that we're having.
Right.
And the presents, Luke and Laura gave them a framed picture from their wedding, which is, I don't know, I guess it's cute.
Yeah, I know. I was
They
like,
didn't really have much time to come up with a present. Did we not decide on the engagement party like that morning or the day before? It was very quick.
yeah. That's pretty much all I got.
Oh,
Noah was
okay.
on a little bit, right?
Yes,
In the
Noah
last
was
episode.
when Brian and Claudia left the floating rib. Bobby and Noah showed up because Noah had a 30-minute dinner break, and then um, he had to go back to work, and Bobby was going to the party. So
Right.
that's where they were. So they actually sat down with Anne, and Anne and Zach were making jokes about how it's awesome to be off work. And then Noah looked sad, and he was like, "Oh, I got to go back to work." And they're like, "Boo! You can't drink with us." And
Yeah,
then Ruby
I
came to
guess.
the restaurant to pick up Bobby, so that's why they were there.
Right.
I don't understand Bobby and Noah's relationship, though. Are they tight? I mean, the last time we really talked to them, they were having a hard time even being monogamous.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we'll get to see Bobby leave because we're gonna do up until Laura leaves. And Bobby was gone, remember, for like she didn't come back till like December of 82 because
I'm
we
kind of
started in
sad
July of 82.
because
So,
I know that this trip to New York is part of what eventually leads to Laura leaving. Um,
mm,
so like I hate that because I love Luke and
you're like,
Laura.
don't go.
I know, but I understand. I understand why Jeannie would have wanted to leave at that point. Like I understand
Right.
wanting to go do something else when your whole life has been on one show. I totally get that. And she's on
And now
now,
look
so
at
I
her.
can't
I know.
complain.
And now look at her.
What?
She
She had to
came
go
back for
live her
many years.
life. She had to go live her life. She's amazing. She gets to do whatever she wants to do, and I'll call it great forever.
She's great. And I love
Also,
her and
she was on
Kevin.
like all the TV shows. She was on what was it? What she was on Murder She
Murder,
Wrote.
She Wrote. She's
Yeah,
Angela's niece.
is Angela's niece.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's important on Murder, She Wrote. I think she was in like 4 episodes, maybe more.
Well, a lot of people were on Murder She Wrote, and she was one of the more fun ones because she got to be
She
reoccurring.
she did a TV movie with Donna Mills called Bare Essence.
Oh, I
And
need to see that because I love Donna Mills. Donna Mills is so
I want
great.
to say it was right after she left GH. It
I
actually
think
might have been during.
I think it
I
was
think it came out in
harder at that
82.
time for people to make the jump from television to movies. Now it's the opposite. Everyone wants to leave movies and do TV because it's consistent.
Well, yeah, well, they're doing streaming service stuff too, which is TV still, but
TV,
it's
slightly movie
yeah,
TV.
it's everything. It's not the same as it used to be. That's why I love watching these classic things. It's brings you back
Hmm. Well,
to
these this
appointment TV and setting your VCR, and if it
I
didn't
still have
record, you get pissed.
some appointment TV. Like I still obviously with General Hospital, I still watch it I have to watch it every night on Hulu. So shout out Hulu.
Right? I
Um,
DVR it,
but
and I'm way
so
behind.
these episodes, like first we ended a big storyline. We're like winding down
Yeah,
the Diana
the Heather
um
Diana.
murder storyline. So
So I
that's
guess
winding down.
Heather kind of, I guess, her storyline kind of dries up until Susan gets murdered, I guess, because remember in 82 we started watching, she wasn't on a ton.
Well, I mean,
So
I
it
do
was
know
like
that
her and Scotty.
they take breaks with characters and they kind of rotate them
Yeah,
around.
but you know what? They did it way more back then because sometimes, like Demi Moore, for example, she
Yeah,
was gone
Jackie
for
was
what,
off for a while.
6 months in
Well,
1983.
look at now. Did I don't know I forget the name of the new actress that's playing Jackie. But she didn't come back for Gregory's funeral. Like
Yeah,
I hate the way the modern soaps don't bring people back for big events because they
yeah,
used
it's
to all the
annoying.
time. Like every time you had a wedding or something, at a certain point, like in the early 90s, if you had been on in the 80s and it was a major event, they would just bring you back for like 3 days.
Yeah.
It was always super, super fun. And I wish they probably don't have the budget for it, but I wish they would do it.
Right, but they could talk about them. Be like, "Oh, Jackie's plane is late." Like say something stupid, so then they were just like, "Okay, at least they were mentioned." But like they're not even
Yeah,
like
like
mentioned either.
I feel like they only really do it with like Laura. Like Laura always talks about Leslie. Like, because obviously she's also mentioned phone calls with Lucky, although I just feel like he's like the most deadbeat dad ever. Like he just had that drug problem, left town, moved to Ireland, never came back. Um
Welcome back, Jonathan Jackson.
you got a lot to answer for, Lucky Spencer.
I'm
So
looking forward to that actually.
yeah, I'm
I think
curious
it's gonna be fun.
as to see what they're going to do with it. Because no offense to him, but I really, really wanted Lulu back. Like, because
I
she's
meant to tweet
so
about this when
tied to the town.
looking looking at Jake and Jason. I'm like, that looks like his real life son. Like he looks like dead
Great
on
job.
like
Yeah, they
Jason.
did a great job. Yeah,
Crazy,
yeah.
crazy casting. I'm like, how does there a boy that looks exactly like this man?
If
Because
we
in the
talk,
same scene, I'm like,
yeah, but if we
crazy.
talk about current acting, I think Steve Burton's killing it right now. So
Oh yeah,
I think,
for
well,
sure.
I always think they are. I always think they are. I think they're doing a great job. Anytime Jeannie's on, I'm in a good mood. Anytime John
And you
Lindstrom's
probably
on,
like because he's pitted against Sunny, or at least where I'm at. I don't know if he's on Sunny's side right now, but
am I excited
in
about people
July.
being pitted against Sunny? Yes. Have I ever been a Sunny fan? No, not. I've been watching since he came on, and I don't. I think Maurice Bernard is an incredible actor. I think he does a great job of making me hate his guts. So I did not like him with Brenda. I did not like him. I kind of liked him with Carly. I think Carly was the only woman
Right.
for him. So I don't. But you're looking at someone who laughed when Lily died, so I'm obviously evil.
Right.
Her in her stupid all white outfits. Like, what's that
So
about?
I guess Christmas will be coming up soon in
Mhm.
1981.
Yeah, they're definitely going
So
to do
I wonder
Christmas
what
because
happened.
remember, I think Christmas
Yeah.
Eve is Laura's birthday.
Okay. So I guess they'll do some fun stuff with that. But yeah, I guess Heather's pretty much done for now. So she'll probably be back burner, I would think.
Well, it looks like they're moving into a storyline for Bobby.
But Bobby, yeah, which is cool. So I'm
I don't
excited
know if
about
they were dropping
that.
any more hints. Like, I'm pretty sure that Rick and Leslie just get married very quietly. I don't think they're going to make a big production right after Luke and Laura's wedding.
I still think it's crazy when like I guess like if Jeannie wanted to leave, they had no choice, but it's a shame they didn't fight harder for her because they literally she left 2 months after the big marriage, which was like the most watched daytime show ever. So
Um,
it's a
I think
shame.
it sucks that they lost the character. I mean, obviously, if that's what Jeannie needed to do for her career, you got to do it.
Right.
I think it sucks that they lost Laura. I don't think they could have recast her. I think she's one of the characters you can't recast. Um,
No.
I
I
just,
mean temporary recast probably, like if she
sure,
was sick or
I don't know, but I don't know how people would accept that. I think some people can be recast and some people can't. I can't imagine them ever recasting Robert Scorpio. Like I don't think I would accept anybody other than Tristan. Like I would just be mad.
yeah, I
Like I
hate
would
that.
just be mad. I'm like, I don't know who you are. No, because I think
Could
him
you
and
imagine if they did that in shows, like if the actors died and they just kept recasting them forever?
um
That would
that
be
would
insane.
be so. I would be scared. I would be like, no one is safe. I don't know. Oh, I
Right.
don't know, but I don't think Jeannie Francis could ever have been recast. I think she's so iconically
No,
white. I don't think I would
there's
have
certain
accepted a recast. I'm
right.
having a hard time with the Heather recast, and she's doing a great job. I
Oh my
just
God, I love
really
Allie Mills. She's
look,
killing
Alia
it.
Mills is amazing, and I think she's fantastic, and I actually like her spin on Heather. But like my brain
Yeah.
is just like she's not Heather. And I'm like, and I want to like. It took me much longer to get on board with her than because I don't know. I love
I
this
think
Heather
she's great
so
as
much. She's
Heather.
doing a great job. She really is. It's just used to I'm used to my girl.
Gotta get used to Allie. It's been 3 years.
I
Gotta
know
get
it's been
over
3 years, but she still
it.
hasn't mastered. Like I don't know. There's just something about Robin. Um,
I
I don't
just
know.
miss I miss her having more I guess family in town because everybody's dead, aren't they? She doesn't have
Ye
Franco, she doesn't have Esme,
Franco's
she doesn't have
dead.
anybody.
Esme's dead.
Yeah, for
Alice
now.
has been dead. Susan was murdered.
Right.
Like literally, her and Scotty should get back together just as like the king and queen
Right.
of
Like,
our entire family has been murdered.
yeah.
Because poor Scott lost all his children except for Serena, and obviously Lee and Gail have passed on. So like it's we're down to him, and he's adopted most of Liz's children.
Yeah.
He just decided he was part of that family when Franco became part of it, and he's staying. I love
All right, well, I'm
Scotty.
gonna wrap this up because I'm exhausted. So,
I know it's Eric's morning. No, Eric's evening
no,
and
it's
my
my
morning.
night
Yeah, it's
and
your
your
night.
morning.
We're opposite schedules.
Well, thanks for joining us at Queers and Soaps. We'll bring more December of Gene General Hospital to you very soon.
Christmas
Um,
in July, probably.
Follow us on all the socials. Yeah, you're probably right. Um, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.